Imagine life as a balancing act on a tightrope. We're all performers in this grand circus, aren't we? Juggling various elements of our existence, our careers, family time, personal hobbies, and maintaining our health. It's a constant dance of balance with each aspect demanding our attention and effort. But have you ever considered what keeps this high-wire act from spiraling into chaos? The most crucial aspect of this balancing act isn't something tangible like work or family. It's not something you can hold in your hand or schedule in your calendar. It's our relationship with God. It's the spiritual connection that forms the core of our existence and provides us with the strength, wisdom, and resilience to keep all the other elements in balance. Think about it. When we are overwhelmed with work, who do we turn to for strength? When family issues arise, where do we seek wisdom? When we are at the peak of our health, to whom do we express our gratitude? Time and again, we find ourselves turning to God, relying on His guidance to navigate this tightrope of life. The Bible is filled with stories of great heroes who mastered this balancing act. They faced adversity, weathered storms, and achieved great things, all because they put God first in their lives. They understood that their relationship with God was not just another ball to juggle in the air. Instead, it was the hand that guided them, the net that caught them when they fell, and the audience that cheered them on. So, how do we make this crucial shift in our lives? How do we ensure that our relationship with God is not just another item on our to-do list, but the very foundation on which we balance everything else? It starts with a simple but profound decision to put God first in everything we do. When we put God first, the rest of our lives falls into place. It's not about neglecting our responsibilities or abandoning our dreams. Instead, it's about recognizing that our strength, wisdom, and success come from God. When we prioritize Him, we find that the rest of our lives, work, family, hobbies, health, fall into place just like a perfectly executed balancing act. Remember the story of Daniel, a man who was thrown into a lion's den because he put God first. This tale, found in the pages of the ancient scriptures, is a testament to the power of unwavering faith and commitment to God. Daniel was a young man of exceptional wisdom and integrity. He was so trusted and respected that the king of Babylon appointed him to high office. But this didn't sit well with some. Jealous of his success, they plotted to bring him down. Knowing Daniel's faithfulness to God, they manipulated the king into signing a decree that anyone who prayed to any god or human being during the next 30 days, apart from the king himself, would be thrown into the lion's den. Daniel, however, remained unswayed. He continued to pray to God 3 times a day, just as he had always done. When the king discovered this, he was distressed, for he greatly admired Daniel. But the law was the law, and so Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. Now, here's where the story takes an astonishing turn. As the dawn broke after a night in the den, the king rushed to see what had become of Daniel. To his amazement, Daniel was unharmed. He declared, "My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight." This story of Daniel teaches us that putting God first isn't always the easiest path. It can lead to trials and tribulations, to lions' dens of our own. But just as God protected Daniel, so too does He promise to be with those who trust in Him, even in the face of great danger. So let's take a leaf out of Daniel's book. Let's strive to put God first in our lives, to trust in His wisdom and protection, even when the world seems against us. Daniel's unwavering faith in God kept him safe, even in the face of death. And his story continues to inspire us, reminding us of the power and protection that comes with putting God first. Or consider Noah, a man who built an ark in the middle of a desert because God told him to. Picture this, an ordinary man, Noah, living in a time when the world was filled with wickedness and evil. One day, God, displeased with the state of the world, decides to cleanse it with a great flood. But God finds Noah to be a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and He makes a divine covenant with him. Noah, despite the incredulity of this task, does not hesitate. He trusts in God completely, even when the task seems absurd to his contemporaries. Imagine the ridicule, the disbelief, the outright scorn that Noah must have faced. Yet he perseveres, driven by his unwavering faith and obedience to God's command. He labors for years building the ark, not on a beach but in the middle of a desert. It's a colossal vessel capable of housing pairs of all creatures, his family, and enough food to sustain them. All this while there isn't a sign of rain, let alone a flood, for miles around. Every nail hammered, every plank laid was a testament to Noah's devotion to God. His actions were not driven by logic or reason, but by faith. He put God first, above the opinions of others, above the apparent absurdity of his actions, and then the unimaginable happens. The skies darken, the earth trembles, and the rains come. Not just a shower, but a deluge that engulfs the entire world. Noah, his family, and the creatures on the ark are the only survivors. The very ark that was a subject of mockery becomes the vessel of salvation. Noah's story is a remarkable testament to what can be achieved when one puts God above everything else. It's a story of trust, obedience, and faith. It's a story that reminds us that sometimes putting God first may require us to do things that others don't understand or agree with. Noah's obedience to God resulted in the preservation of life on earth. His story serves as an emblem of faith, encouraging us to put God first, even when the world doesn't understand. Then there's Abraham, a man who was willing to sacrifice his son because God asked him to. His story is one of faith, obedience, and a willingness to put God above all else, even what he loved the most. Abraham was an ordinary man, born in the city of Ur, a bustling metropolis of its time. Yet he was handpicked by God to embark on an extraordinary journey. God told him to leave his home, his people, and his familiar surroundings and go to a place that he would show him. Abraham obeyed. His trust in God was so unwavering that he didn't question, he didn't hesitate. He just packed his bags and left, putting God's command over his comfort. Fast forward a few years, and Abraham and his wife Sarah were blessed with a son, Isaac. Isaac was not just a son, he was the fulfillment of God's promise, the one through whom Abraham's descendants would be as numerous as the stars. But then came the ultimate test of Abraham's faith. God asked him to sacrifice his beloved son, Isaac. Now, this was a heart-wrenching ask. Imagine being told to give up the one thing you've wanted all your life, the one thing you've waited for, the one thing that means the world to you. But Abraham didn't flinch. He prepared to do as God had commanded, ready to sacrifice his son, because he put God first, above everything else. However, at the very last moment, God stopped him. Abraham had passed the test. His faith had not wavered, his commitment had not faltered. He was willing to give up what he loved the most because he loved God above all. And for that, God made a covenant with him, promising that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars. And that's the story of Abraham, a testament to the power of faith, obedience, and putting God first, no matter what. Abraham's faith in God was rewarded with a promise that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars. These stories demonstrate the power and blessings that come from putting God first. It's a lesson we can all apply in our lives, no matter where we are on our spiritual journey. So how can we practically put God first? It starts with prayer. Speak with God, not just in times of need, but in all moments. This creates a continuous dialogue and deepens our relationship with Him. Next, engage with the Bible. It's not just a book, but a life guide filled with wisdom and teachings that can illuminate our path. And then there's service. By serving others, we serve God. It's a reflection of His love and a way to share it with the world. But remember, trusting in God's plan is key. Even if the road gets tough, trust in His timing. When we put God first, we align ourselves with His will and open ourselves up to His blessings. Putting God first isn't always easy, but as we've seen, it's worth it. We've journeyed through the lives of Daniel, Noah, and Abraham, ordinary men who chose to put God over everything, and in return they were blessed abundantly. Remember Daniel, who despite being in a foreign land, under a foreign king, never compromised his faith. He put God first and was rewarded with protection even in the lion's den. Similarly, Noah, in a time when wickedness was rampant, chose to listen to God's command. He faced ridicule, but his faith never wavered. He put God first, and his family was the only one saved from the calamitous flood. And of course, there's Abraham, the father of faith. He was willing to leave his home and even sacrifice his only son, all because he trusted God above all else. His faith was credited to him as righteousness. These are not just stories, they are lessons, reminders of the peace, protection, and blessings that come from putting God first. In our lives, we face a constant balancing act. We juggle different roles, responsibilities, and desires. But amidst all these, let's remember to put God first. Let's learn from Daniel's unwavering faith, Noah's obedience, and Abraham's trust. Let's invite God into every aspect of our lives, our decisions, our challenges, our victories. When we put God first, we align ourselves with His will. We open ourselves to His protection, His guidance, and His boundless love. It's not always easy, but as we've seen, it's worth it. After all, what are worldly possessions compared to eternal blessings? So let's take a moment to reflect. How can we better put God first in our lives? What changes do we need to make? Let's encourage one another, learn from one another, and grow together in faith and love. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends and family. Let's grow together in faith and love, putting God first in all we do.